Hello students, I hope you all are good, doing well. Stay indoors, stay safe. In the last video, I had explained to you the chapter 3, Deep Water. We had read how William Douglas, as a young boy when he was 11 years old, he had a terrible experience where he was nearly drowned in the swimming pool at YMCA. And this experience has affected him very adversely. He was saved, but when he came back to his home, he was not in a normal condition. He was trembling. He was crying the whole night. He couldn't eat that night. He felt wobbly in his knees for several days. He felt kind of fear and sick to his stomach. There was a haunting fear in his heart. So let us continue after that. William Douglas says, I never went back to the pool. I feared water. I avoided it whenever I could. So after that experience, he was in terrible fear of water. He avoided it whenever and wherever he could. Now see, he already has two adverse experiences with water. The first experience was at the age of 3 or 4 years old when he went with his father to California beach. He was submerged in the waves and he was very afraid and all. And from there he started disliking the water, and he got to understand that water was really very overpowering. The next experience he had when he was 11 years old, and he was thrown inside the swimming pool by a big bruiser kind of boy, and he near about drowned. And these two experiences have left a terrifying effect on him. He is very afraid of water now. He has developed water phobia. He has started avoiding water whenever and wherever he could. A few years later, when I came to know the waters of the Cascades, I wanted to get into them. So he wanted to get into the Cascade waterfall. He wanted to enjoy those waterfalls. And whenever I did, whether I was wading the Teton or bumping river or bathing in warm lake of the great rocks, the terror that had seized me in the pool would come back. So whenever he was inside water, whether he was in the bumping river or he was at Teton, or whether he was at warm rock, whenever he was inside water, that kind of terror, when he was drowning, at the age of 11 years old, that terror seized him. A kind of terror which knows no bound. It would take possession of me completely. So he was completely possessed by that terror. It was terrified of water. My legs would become paralyzed. Icy horror would grab my heart. Now icy horror means very intense horror. It grabbed his heart whenever he wanted to go inside water. Now this handicap stayed with me as the years rolled by. In canoes on main lakes fishing for landlocked salmon. Landlocked salmon. Salmon is the name of a fish. So whenever he wanted to go for fishing at main lakes, bass fishing in New Hampshire. Now see here, these are the kinds of lakes, the names of lakes have been given, and these lakes are known for different kinds of fishes. Like here you see Maine lakes, they are known for salmon fish. New Hampshire, it is known for bass fishes. Then Deschutes, it is known for trout fishes. Oregon lake is known for Metolius fish. Okay, so these are the lakes where he could find these fishes. So whenever he wanted to go for fishing in these lakes, so the line says, in canoes on main lakes fishing for landlocked salmon, bass fishing in New Hampshire, trout fishing on the Deschutes, and Natilius in Oregon, fishing for salmon on the Columbia, at Bumping Lake in the Cascades. Wherever I went, the haunting fear of the water followed him. So whenever he wanted to go for fishing, this kind of haunting fear stayed with him. It ruined my fishing trips, deprived me of the joy of canoeing, boating and swimming. So he couldn't enjoy his water trips, he couldn't do fishing, his canoeing, his boating and swimming. Everything was hampered because whenever he wanted to move on canoes or boats or fish, wanted to go for fishing, he always had that terror coming back to him, the terror of water. I used every way I knew to overcome this fear, but it held me firmly in its grip. Finally, one October, I decided to get an instructor and learn to swim. So finally, he thought that he would try to learn swimming, and he hired an instructor. I went to a pool and practiced 5 days a week, an hour each day. So 5 days a week, an hour every day, he practiced in a pool, and he hired an instructor for it. Now see, the instructor put a belt around me. Now this was the first step, because here you see William Douglas has not only to learn swimming, he has to kind of come out of his fear, come out of the grip of his fear. So the instructor has to see to it that William Douglas does everything gradually and he comes out of that fear. So he is doing this kind of thing in steps, step by step. So what's the first step? See, he put a belt around me, a rope attached to the belt went through a pulley that ran on an overhead cable. He held on to the end of the rope, and we went back and forth across the pool, hour after year, day after day, week after week. So this was the first thing which was done. See, the instructor put a belt across the body of William Douglas. This belt, from this belt, a rope was attached. Okay, and that rope was on the overhead cable with a pulley, and the end of the rope was with the instructor. Now, those who have still doubts, I would like to tell you here. Have you seen a well? You must have seen. Nowadays we can't see well, but in movies you must have seen. कुआं, जो वहाँ पानी जो होता है, so there is a kind of pulley with which you pull up the rope of the bucket and you pull up the water. That is the kind of pulley which you find in well, कि आप आराम से वो पानी निकाल सको. But this pulley was there over this swimming pool. Why? Because the person here, William Douglas, he had a belt across his body, and with that belt there was a rope attached. Okay, and that rope, वो rope जो था उस पुली से जाके इंस्ट्रक्टर के हाथों में था, and that instructor, he held the rope so that William Douglas understands that he is not about to drown. And like this he went back and forth, hour after hour, day after day, week after week. Now this kind of repetition shows that this process happened again and again for several weeks. It was not that in one day it was over, एक ही दिन किया गया. No, it was not that. So this process was done several times, and this was done just to give a kind of comfort zone to William, that he is not alone in the swimming pool and he is getting acquainted. He has acquainted with the water zone. On each trip across the pool, a bit of the panic seized me. Each time the instructor relaxed his hold on the rope, I went under. Some of the old terror returned and my legs froze. It was 3 months before the tension began to slack. So see, For 3 months, the same process was carried on. What was that process? The first process was that the instructor, this process itself went for 3 months, 3 mahine. So the instructor put a belt across his body, and from there was a rope. The rope was attached to a pulley, and that rope was held by the instructor, and he held that rope. And from there itself, the William Douglas, he went back and forth. So this was there for 3 months, and each time he was released, each time the rope was released by the instructor, the kind of tension came back to him, the kind of terror came back to him. And after 3 months, a little bit of tension slackened, loosened, became less. So after that, then he taught me to put my face under water and exhale, and to raise my nose and inhale. So after that, the instructor taught him how to put under the nose and exhale. Exhale, when you throw out your air, and put your nose outside the water and then inhale. So this was taught by the instructor. See, he started with October, and 3 months the first process is there. So 3 months means October, November, December. Till December he is having the first process itself. After that he started inhaling and exhaling, learning how to inhale and exhale. Inhaling when you are over the surface, above the surface of water. Exhaling when you are inside. You cannot inhale when you are inside, otherwise you will swallow inside the water. Now, I repeated the exercise hundreds of times. Bit by bit, I shed part of the panic that seized me when my head went under water. So the main thing which the writer had to do was to shed his his fear for water. Next, he held me at the side of the pool and had me kick with my legs. For weeks, I did just that. So, next, the instructor taught William Douglas how to position your legs and how to kick with your legs when you are inside water. And for several weeks, William did just that. At first, my legs refused to work, but they gradually relaxed, and finally, I could command them. So at first, his legs, they were stiff. They refused to move. Remember, when he was drowning in the pool at YMCA, his legs had become paralyzed. Here also the same kind of feeling is here. He has kind of fear. So his legs at first refused to work, but slowly and slowly the writer could have the writer William Douglas could have command over his legs, so that they would move a little bit, because without legs you cannot swim inside the water. Thus, piece by piece, he built a swimmer. So here you see, instructor has built William Douglas as a swimmer, but piece by piece. Now here piece by piece means step by step. He has not hurried on with any of his steps. Whichever steps William Douglas did was for several months, for several weeks, for several days. He was not in a hurry. He couldn't be in hurry, and even the instructor was not in any kind of hurry. And very gradually he built a swimmer out of William Douglas. And when he had perfected each piece, he put them together into an integrated whole. In April, he said, "Now you can swim." So bit by bit, he taught him step by step. He taught him several parts of swimming. First of all, how to be inside water, how to inhale outside the water, exhale inside water, how to kick your legs inside water. And then he joined them and taught him to swim. And in April, he said, "Now you can swim." So remember, he had started learning to swim in the month of October and now in April. So that means how many months? October, November, December, January, 8 months. 8 months. In 8 months, William Douglas has learned swimming. So finally in April, the instructor said that you can swim. Dive off and swim the length of the pool and crawl stroke. Crawl stroke is a kind of stroke. When we swim, we apply various kinds of strokes: crawl stroke, butterfly stroke, breast stroke, backstroke, and several others are there. Those who knows how to swim, they already know that. So finally in April, the instructor asked William Douglas to swim, and because he had completely taught him swimming. I did. The instructor was finished, but I was not finished. Very important line. I did means means William Douglas, he swam as his instructor asked him to. He dived and then he swam. The instructor was finished means the work of the instructor was finished, but I was not finished. But the work of William Douglas is not over. Why does he say like this? Remember, the work of instructor is to teach swimming, and that he has done. But the work of William Douglas is not only to learn swimming. His main motto, his main intention is to come above the fear of water. And that has not been possible till now. Okay. I still wondered if I would be terror-stricken when I was alone in the pool. So this kind of feeling the writer always had in his mind. William Douglas thought that he could swim, but if he was alone, could he swim? Would the old fear come back to him? I tried it. I swam the length up and down. Tiny vestiges of the old terror would return. So he tried it. When he was alone in the swimming pool, he swam. When he swam, tiny vestiges of his old terror, vestiges here means tiny parts of his old terror, came back to him. But now I could frown and say to that terror, trying to scare me, well, here's to you, look, and off I would go for another length of the pool. So, whenever he tried to swim alone in the swimming pool, tiny terror came back to him. But then he could frown at the terror and say, oh, trying to scare me. And then look, and he dived off and he swam. That means he was trying to get above his fear. He was encountering his fear in a very, very brave way. This went on until July. So here you see in April his swimming session was over. But till July, what was he doing? From April to July, from October to April, he learned to swim. From April to July, he swam in the swimming pool alone. But I was still not satisfied. I was not sure that all the terror had left. So I went to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire, dived off a dock at Riggs Island, and swam 2 miles across the lake to Stamp Island. So he was not sure whether all the terror had left. So he went to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire and he tried to swim there. I swam the crawl, breaststroke, side stroke, backstroke. Only once did the terror return, when I was in the middle of the lake. So he kind of tried all kinds of strokes there, and only once the terror came back to him. When I was in the middle of the lake, I put my face under and saw nothing but bottomless water. The old sensation returned in miniature. I laughed and said, well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do to me? It fled and I swam on. So when he was in the middle of the lake, that old terror came back to him. But then he laughed and he told that Mr. Terror, what can you do to me? Look. And he swam on. He says that the terror fled and he swam on. Now this has a deeper context which I would be explaining to you in the next video. Yet I had residual doubts. At my first opportunity, I hurried west, went up the Titan to Conrad Meadows, up the Conrad Creek trail to Mead Glacier, and camped in the high meadow by the side of Worm Lake. The next morning, I stripped, dived into the lake, and swam across to the other shore and back. So he says that yet he had doubts, and that is why he swam across the Worm Lake, back and forth, just as dog Corcoran used to do. I shouted with joy, and Gilbert Peak returned the echo. I had conquered my fear of water. So when he felt that he had residual doubts, he went to Worm Lake, and when he could swim across there properly, nicely, then from the Gilbert Peak, he shouted with joy. And this was kind of real victory over his fear of water. Now see students, we have only one paragraph left, but that is a little bit, explanation is needed. It's a very deep kind of theme of your chapter. So let it be all for today. Whatever I've taught you, go through that portion, and if any doubt, we have interactive classes and we shall be definitely dealing with those doubts. Till then, goodbye. Take good care of yourselves.